In my experience as a hospice social worker, I think there are a few rules of thumb that apply whether you're going to a residence or a patient's home. One would be to call ahead. You can reach the staff at a residence or whoever is in a patient's home and say, I'd like to come visit. Is it a good time? Number two, when you get there, kind of get an assessment of where the patient is in terms of very sleepy, really alert, sad, happy. You can kind of look and get some of those ideas. Try to get a sense of how conversational the person wants to be. Try to listen more than you talk. Sometimes family members are anxious and anxiety brings on, lots of chatter that can be hard for the person to hear because, again, the patient usually wants a low stimulation environment and might just roll their eyes and kind of nod out if there's too much conversation going on. So, quiet presence, depending on your relationship, if the person seems kind of up to listening, talk about your history with this person. I remember when we visited so-and-so. You remember that funny time when such and such happened. Usually those bring back really good memories. Maybe some sadness too, because they're not going to happen again, but usually they're happy. Don't hesitate to bring up with the patient that, I know this might be our last visit. It's making me incredibly sad, but I'm so glad we had this time together. And although I might not see you again in this state, your memories and our memories are never going to go away. They're going to be locked right in my heart and in the pictures and in all the things I think about we did together. I would check in ahead of time. Sometimes flowers are allowed in a hospice residence. They usually are, but I would find out if the particular person wants flowers. In terms of food, it's not necessarily a no-no. Sometimes I've had many people, could you just bring me a Dunkin' Donuts coffee? The coffee here is terrible, and it usually is. And I cannot tell you the joy in seeing that Dunkin' Donuts cup of coffee. Or I've had people crave fried clams from such and such a place. So there are often food cravings. Be prepared, they might only have a bite or two, or they may look at it and say, maybe a little later, and it can be put in the refrigerator. But at the moment you're asking, they might have that craving. Or the response might be, I've really got no appetite right now. So flowers, some food, or just in general, is there something I can bring you that would make you happy today? In hospice, we do our best to, as part of making somebody comfortable, for them not to be hooked up to a lot of things. Sometimes they might get a little bit of IV fluid, but that's usually the most you see other than oxygen. And we do have several patients that need to have oxygen. That's usually the most that you'll see in terms of apparatus. If you visit a person in hospice who's on morphine, and many of them will be, kind of the way it works, if they've never been on that kind of medicine before, the first day or two, they might be pretty sleepy from its initial impact. And then what gradually happens over day 3 going forward is their body gets accustomed to the medication, and they come back to their sort of baseline self, and the medication is working to alleviate the symptoms. I always encourage visitors not to stay long, 15 minutes, and situations you sometimes run into are large families when everybody wants to be in there at the same time, and then you will often have the patient in the middle of the room and family members having a family get together around them. You might find that there are other people there already that you know. If the room feels more than 2 people, you might want to say to one of the other a third person or a fourth person, why don't we go out and go for a little walk? There are a lot of people in the room right now. So if the patient seems unable to talk when you're there, I would suggest the visitor not talking a lot, because my assumption would be that the patient needs more quiet. Now, it may mean that they're just unable to talk at this point, but again, I would still aim for less chat. And what I might start with is saying, Mary, it's Susan, and I've come to visit. You seem like you might not be up for a lot of chat today, and that's okay. I'm hoping it's okay if I just sit with you for a few minutes. I'd like to hold your hand if that's okay, or maybe stroke your arm. You can nod if that's okay. If you can shake your head no, that's okay. But, and if you'd like me to leave, that's okay. But I can also just sit here quietly with you, and that's fine with me. If you do have some fears, and those are normal fears because it's new, it's strange, it's something you've never faced before, try to request a visit with the nurse or the social worker before you even see the patient, and we can help walk you through it. We can help anticipate what you might see, and we can even be with you if you want for that visit. It's certainly part of how we support a family as well as the patient. And if you do find yourself frightened, even with support, don't be ashamed. It's okay, because there are other things you can do. If you cannot go into the room, please don't feel guilty. You can leave a note. You can write a letter. That letter can be read to the person by one of the staff members. So don't blame yourself, and don't feel it's a negative or a fault. We're all created differently, and everybody has different things that they're good at.